House rank and file are trying to wrestle some power back after several weeks where Speaker Mike Johnson flexed his muscles, certainly unprecedented for him in his rule over the House. This is going to be a big shift here, and we'll have to see how Johnson deals with a couple of big issues that are bipartisan in some ways.
Yeah, let's take this piece by piece.
Good morning, I'm Anna Palmer.
And I'm Jake Sherman.
And welcome to the Daily Punch, brought to you by Punchbowl News. It's Monday, November 17th, 2025. Let's get into the mix. Here are your Washington headlines of the day. Number one, House rank and file try to flex their muscles. Number two, what to watch on the Epstein files. And number three, the Senate looks to move on more funding bills. Happy Monday morning, Jake. Good to be back with you.
Yes,
let's
ma'am.
get to it. All right. So we've got some news here at the top. Lawmakers from both parties are trying to schedule a Capitol Hill visit for Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman during his upcoming trip to Washington. According to multiple sources, the Crown Prince is set to meet with President Donald Trump at the White House on Tuesday, but they are looking to also get a meeting on Capitol Hill. We'll see if that gets set, but they are targeting Tuesday afternoon.
Yes, I think it will get set, to be honest with you, unless the fact that we're writing it gets set spooks them. All the people on the Hill that would be involved in this say that it's happening. It's going to happen. It's in the mix. The right people are talking to the right people, so to speak. So it's just a massive shift, obviously, in the politics around Saudi Arabia since Lindsey Graham said, I mean, we all know this back in 2018 when Jamal Khashoggi was killed. He said there's not a smoking gun, there's a smoking saw. He was very, very critical of MBS and his role in the Khashoggi murder. And this is obviously MBS's first time back in the United States for a visit like this since that episode. And by the way, coming to Capitol Hill, which has been very critical of him and the Saudi government, is just a huge change in tone and change in tenor and change in strategy.
All right, let's move on to our top story this morning, looking at how House rank and file are trying to wrestle some power back after several weeks where Speaker Mike Johnson flexed his muscles, certainly unprecedented for him in his rule over the House, keeping the House out of session for 54 days, refusing to swear in Representative Adelita Grijalva, and also, working really closely with Majority Leader John Thune to get President Trump out of cutting a deal with Democrats during the shutdown. But this is going to be a big shift here, and we'll have to see how Johnson deals with a couple of big issues that are bipartisan in some ways.
Yeah, let's take this piece by piece. Epstein files. The Epstein files is the vote on the discharge petition is coming up this week. And this is something that the leadership has tried to avoid. It's interesting. They've alternatively ignored it and tried to avoid it. Donald Trump had Lauren Boebert in the White House last week trying to get her off the discharge petition. Now Trump says, well, just vote for it. And that's obviously because people are going to vote for it. So he didn't want to seem like he was going to lose. And listen, remember, this has to pass the Senate. This has to get signed by the president. We're a long way from that. I'm not sure the Senate takes it up. Although, listen, Democrats were saying to me last night, if this gets 400-something votes in the House, it's going to be very difficult for the Senate to ignore. Don't you think so?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to go deeper on Epstein here in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I think that this is going to dominate clearly the conversation here in Washington. A vote that Trump wanted to avoid, but now is kind of in the reality space of understanding he's not going to. Other things where you see a bipartisan group of House members trying to push their way into the Senate talks to renew the Obamacare tax credit. It's going to be interesting to see if there's any success there, but certainly an issue where you have the speaker saying he's not for extending COVID-era subsidies, and some of his rank and file in a very different place than Mike Johnson.
Yes, and also Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez is trying to force a vote on her disapproval resolution of Chuy Garcia, one of the most remarkable things I've seen in the House in recent years, especially on the Democratic side, a party that has prided themselves over the last, since I've been covering them on message discipline and not stepping in the way of a victory. MGP has this resolution on Chuy Garcia, who installed his chief of staff to basically be his successor out of nowhere. And number 4, on the floor this week, a resolution that looks to repeal this provision that was in the spending bill that would allow senators to sue the government if their data was targeted by the government. That's something that is quite complicated. The House is going to repeal it, but Johnson on Fox News Sunday lent some credence to this provision, saying it should prevent the government from targeting senators. So anyway, a lot of stuff on the floor this week in which the rank and file is trying to wrestle power back, and a very interesting week this is the first full week post shutdown. So, and both chambers are going to be in session.
All right, Jake, moving on to the number 2 story of the morning, going deeper on the Epstein files. The House will vote Tuesday on the discharge petition calling on the Justice Department to release the full Epstein files. But as you flicked at earlier this morning, we've got changing tactics by the Trump administration, now saying that House Republicans should back the petition authored by Representative Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna. I mean, a huge about face for Trump to kind of really shift gears after trying to put some significant pressure on other members like Lauren Boebert to take their name off the discharge petition.
Trump is getting where the rest of the Republican Party is. He has no way of stopping this train, so he just jumped on it. And that's kind of how you should view this. And as I mentioned before, there's a long way before this becomes law. It needs to pass the Senate. Who the hell knows if the Senate takes it up? I do think, as I said before, I think it becomes difficult if this passes. And at the top of my head, I can't think of anybody who votes no on this. And Trump is going to say, everyone voted yes because he said that they should vote yes. And, he's for full transparency, he has nothing to hide. That is not how he has acted. And I'm not suggesting he does have something to hide. I'm saying that is not how the White House has acted in recent weeks. They tried, let's be definitive here, they tried to stop this discharge petition from reaching 218. They did. And now he's saying that they should vote for it. But again, the Senate has to pass it, and then the president has to sign it into law. I don't know that he's going to sign it into law. I doubt he does. And if he vetoes it, can the Republican leadership sustain his veto, or will it be overturned rather? Remember, that is a very high threshold in both chambers.
Right.
And it's a very long way away. So I just think, Anna, the politics of this are complicated. And by the way, even if this does become law, the Justice Department has ways that are in this legislation to not release certain documents or to heavily redact certain documents. I mean, I think the cardinal sin politically was to lend this thing any credence at the beginning, right? Like, you could have, if you were the Republican leadership, you could have just said, yeah, it's a discharge petition. Maybe it gets to 218. Maybe it doesn't. Like, we're conducting our own investigation. Instead, they made this to be some huge, massive deal, which elevated it and gave it, and just so anyway, that's my thought, Anna. What do you think?
I mean, it's all, I understand exactly what you're saying. I mean, I think the thing that's going to be what to watch, right? So clearly this is going to pass the House. I think the question is, where do the numbers end up now that Trump's let everybody go on this? Does it get this massive vote like you're suggesting? And then when it goes to the Senate, to your point, what does, the Senate has really not had to deal with this in the same way as Speaker Mike Johnson, who's been kind of fending this off for, more than a month. I mean, this has been months in the making, and you got to bet your bottom dollar that Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and Democrats are going to try to make Republicans uncomfortable on this issue. And I think the question now is this just going to be day after day after day of bad headline for this White House? Because this is going to be something that, they're going to try to make painful for Republicans. And as you say, the question is going to be, okay, do they just say, hey, this is not that big of a deal, we'll vote on it, and it gets vetoed? Or is this something we're still going to be talking about, this spring, Jake?
I don't know the answer to that, Anna. I think that the Dems are going to try to force a vote on it. I mean, House Democrats and proponents of this measure in the House think it just becomes impossible for the Senate Republican leadership to ignore this. I don't know if I agree or disagree. There are members of the Senate Republican leadership listening to this podcast this morning, as I'm reminded all the time, and I expect they're going to be asked about this a lot over the next couple days.
All right, let's go to the number 3 story of the morning. The Senate has a short week on tap with senators returning Tuesday and likely to head out for the Thanksgiving recess on Thursday afternoon. Wow, don't want to put in too much of a long week there for the Senate.
Come on. I mean, listen, Thanksgiving is a week from Thursday, so if you just got to take it easy. I mean,
just getting their stomach ready, just make sure they got enough room for the turkey, the stuffing.
I get it. And Mike Johnson says the House is going to be working long days and long nights. He said that last week and then sent the House home on Wednesday night after they voted to reopen the government. But the House, and I got to say, they're here Monday to Friday this week, a full week for the House of Representatives, which I
Well, they
am
took off, 40 some days.
54 days. Yeah,
54
right,
days.
exactly.
So they got to make up some time. But this item is looking at what's happening in the Senate. It is all about government funding continuing to be the big issue for the Senate with a shutdown in the rearview mirror. Senate Majority Leader John Thune is eager to tee up the next full slate of fiscal year 2026 funding bills. This is going to be some kind of combination of defense, labor, HHS, commerce, justice, science, and transportation HUD into a mini bus. You could also see interior funding as part of that. This is a big deal for them. I mean, everybody's looking at that January 30th government funding deadline.
Remember also, a lot of these, Mike Johnson said yesterday, a lot of these bills are negotiated already, or they're very close to being negotiated. But listen, I will say this. First of all, obviously, everything has to get 60 in the Senate, so that's more difficult. But they're going to have to work out some big issues on funding levels, which are obviously very, very different. And appropriators are already working on that, or at least beginning to work on that. But there's not a lot of time, Anna, between now and January 30th. I know it seems like a long way away. It's not. It's just not. I mean, they have to pass 9 more appropriations bills. They have to figure out the funding levels. They have to figure out how to package these bills, in a way that the House and the Senate can both process them without too much heartache. So it's not an easy process, I would say that. And it's going to take up every last bit of between now and January 30th.
The other big thing to watch in the Senate, of course, Jake, is the simmering tension in the Democratic Party over the maybe not so simmering, maybe boiling at some points, tension in the Democratic Party over the 8 Senate Democrats who joined Republicans in voting to reopen the government. This is something we are covering really closely. Certainly, it doesn't appear that Chuck Schumer has any real, kind of challenges to his leadership, but there are some real differences of opinion in the Democratic Party about what they should have done and where they're going and how the leadership is going to lead them into the rest of this year and into next year.
Yeah, and those tensions aren't going to go away. So that's something we're going to keep a close eye on as well.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Thanks so much for listening. We appreciate it. If you like the Daily Punch, share it on social media. Tell your friends. It's the best way for folks to find out about us. And of course, you can go deeper on all things Punchbowl News at punchbowl.news. Have a great day and stay safe, everybody.